The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out this week, and after watching it, I realized there's a phrase I'll probably end up saying a lot this year. Not as good as Winter Soldier. I'm Mr. Divery, and this is One Geek's Opinion. I saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it's not as good as Winter Soldier. What really upsets me is I think there was a good screenplay in there, but something happened. Something that hangs a dark cloud over not just Spider-Man, but all superhero films. Something called the Avengers effect. I wasn't a fan of the first Amazing Spider-Man film, and the series only gets slightly better the second time around. I would say most of the problems I had with the first film are not present in the second, however, they've replaced them with new problems. I am willing to say that Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man, but he hasn't sold me on his Peter Parker. Andrew Parker is a big spaz. Sorry, that's not for me. I like my Peter Parker to either be a nerd or the everyman. Garfield is no different as Peter Parker than he is as Spider-Man, and this has nothing to do with even getting the superpowers. He was a wisecracking jerk-ass from the start of the first film. In contrast to my favorite character in the film, Electro, Jamie Foxx steals the show. He starts as a geek and then gets superpowers and becomes a total badass. Electro is the first Spider-Man film villain since Doc Ock whose motives sort of make sense. He's an ignored engineer who gets superpowers and really has something of a Hulk-style chain of events that he's not really evil, just misunderstood. He looks weird, so the whole city turns on him. And that's really what leads him to become the bad guy. You feel more of an emotional connection with his plight than anyone else in the film, including Spider-Man, because Electro seems to want to be good. He just wants people to notice him. Instead, they automatically hate him because he looks different. They could have made a whole film just about Electro's struggle. But that's just Electro in the first 2/3 of the movie. For the final act, he's a paint-by-numbers hired thug. I will destroy Spider-Man, the city, the world. Mwahahaha! I enjoyed the fight scenes between Spider-Man and Electro, which says a lot because I usually hate CGI fights, but those fight scenes are the only thing really interesting about the end of the film. Gwen Stacy. You can't talk about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 without talking about Gwen Stacy. Peter and Gwen's relationship was just painful to watch. Way too many we should be together, we shouldn't be together, blah 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 nonsense. How they planned to resolve it was pretty obvious, but they handled it well, and you do feel the emotion the filmmakers were going for when it all comes to a climax. Ha! I was able to talk about Gwen's role in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film without spoiling that she dies in the end. And then we have Harry Osborn. The Green Goblin was the worst aspect of the film, and this is where the Avengers effect can really ruin something. I am positive Harry was not supposed to be in this movie and possibly not supposed to be in the entire series. But someone at Sony saw how much money the Avengers made and said, hey, we gotta start throwing in a lot of characters into our films too. The problem is, it doesn't always work. And it just makes me sad because nothing else in the film is quite this bad. Also, when you talk about Harry Osborn, you have to talk about the fact that he comes out of nowhere. They try to play it off like he and Peter have been friends for years, but considering Peter's dad, his mentor, his girlfriend, and the spider that bit him all have connections to Oscorp, it's hard to think that at no time in the earlier film Peter would just bring up, oh yeah, my best friend's dad owns this company. Peter and Harry's friendship was a farce and a contrivance, and the only thing that felt more forced was trying to turn a dignified actor like Paul Giamatti into a hired goon. I have a new appreciation for how Sam Raimi took the time to develop the relationship between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn before doing the whole my best friend is my worst enemy cliche. Yeah, I said it. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 made me like something about Spider-Man 3. That's how bad Amazing Spider-Man 2 f***ed it up. Every scene Harry Osborn is in feels tacked on. Nearly all of them are just characters giving exposition. Essentially one very long, very boring setup to, we have a secret room with 6 supervillain costumes. And the rest of the plot is just as nonsensical. It feels like it's going on forever. They spend so much time giving boring exposition. I kept thinking, you know, if this was Winter Soldier, there'd be a car chase or gunfight here just to keep the story interesting. You get this jazz about secret science work of Peter's parents, Oscorp conspiracy, Harry's weird disease, Peter trying to find out why his dad left, Peter's promise to Captain Stacy, Gwen going to college. Oh, and the Rhino was there too. No, I'm not kidding, that's how they introduce Rhino. And it doesn't add anything to the film except to show, hey, this world has a lot of crazy characters, just like the Avengers. See kids, we're just like the Avengers. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, stop it everybody, just stop it. The movie isn't bad, but it's just not good. It has its moments, but it's bogged down by so much nonsense. And that's what I really don't like. If this movie was stripped down to the nuts and bolts of Spider-Man versus Electro, I could see it being a good Spider-Man film. There's so much potential there. Andrew Garfield is a good Spider-Man. He's a decent kid trying to make the best out of a hard situation. Jamie Foxx is a great Electro. He actually makes the character come alive, and you want to root for him even though he's the bad guy. And even the romance stuff, which I complain about, at the end I have to say, I did find it kind of touching. But instead of making the best Spider-Man film they could make, they decide to make what I suspect will be the first in a very long line of subpar, we want to be the Avengers films. But hey, that's just one geek's opinion.
If I say it one more time, if I say it one more time, if I say it one more time.